There are forces in this world that feed not on truth, but illusion, who survive not through strength, but through the manipulation of others. These are the narcissists who craft masks so convincing that even they begin to believe in the lie. But illusion cannot survive in the presence of self-mastery. And today, I will share with you 5 internal practices, 5 mind tricks that dissolve the power of narcissists like mist under the morning sun. In the presence of manipulation, the one who sees clearly holds the advantage. The narcissist's power lies not in physical strength, but in the ability to provoke, to trigger, to lure others into emotional entanglement. But what happens when you do not engage? What happens when you simply observe? Detached observation is not coldness. It is not avoidance. It is the highest expression of presence, like the mountain that watches the storm pass, unmoved, unshaken. When you step into this space, you no longer react, you respond. And sometimes the most powerful response is stillness. The narcissist feeds off reaction. Anger, confusion, defensiveness, tears, these are not signs of weakness to them. They are evidence of control. Your emotional turmoil becomes their victory. But when you no longer offer that reaction, when you simply witness their words, their provocations, their games, they are left standing in their performance with no audience. Observation creates a gap, a space between their action and your inner world. In this space, you regain choice. You no longer speak because you've been provoked. You speak because you have decided. You no longer defend yourself because you feel attacked. You observe that attack like a passing shadow. You learn to see without absorbing. It is not easy. The ego wants to respond. It wants justice, explanation, vindication. But wisdom does not chase shadows. It stands still and watches them vanish on their own. The more you observe without reaction, the more patterns you begin to see. You realize their tactics are predictable. You recognize when the bait is laid, and because you see it, you can walk around it. In this stillness, something extraordinary happens. Their power begins to dissolve. They cannot understand it because it cannot be manipulated. They cannot control what does not move. They cannot feed off what does not respond. It is like trying to strike water with a sword. It simply flows around the attack, untouched. Detachment is not disconnection from life. It is connection to a deeper part of life. Part not shaken by emotion, not clouded by confusion. You remain fully present, but you do not become entangled. You listen, but you do not absorb. You see, but you do not internalize. Is how you remain powerful without becoming aggressive, calm without becoming cold, wise without needing to prove it. The narcissist will try again and again. They will search for a crack in your calm. Each time you return to presence, each time you choose observation over reaction, you reinforce a truth. You are no longer a participant in their illusion. You are the mirror they cannot distort. You are the silence that reveals their noise. And in that space, their games fall apart. When blame is thrown at you, when fingers are pointed and accusations rise like smoke in the air, tempting to catch what is being hurled, to respond, to explain, to defend. But not everything that is given must be received. Not every judgment needs to be worn. What the narcissist throws at you is not truth. It is a projection and externalization of their own hidden battles, their shame, their fear, their inner war. And unless you choose to carry it, it has no place in your being. The key is to become the mirror, not the sponge. When you absorb their projections, you begin to question yourself. You start doubting your intentions, your worth, your memories. Slowly, your vision becomes clouded. But the mirror reflects, it does not hold. Let the words pass through your awareness like wind passing over still water. They disturb nothing, they leave no trace. A projection is like an arrow dipped in poison, but its venom only harms if it pierces your skin. If you stand firm in your center, aware of who you are and what you carry within, the arrow cannot touch you. You will see it for what it is, a reflection of the other's wounds, not your own. You will not take ownership of pain that was never yours. Many fall into the trap of trying to convince the narcissist. I'm not like that. I didn't do that. You misunderstood me. But such efforts are wasted. Their intent is not to understand, but to confuse. Their words are not seeking truth, but control. And the more you explain, the deeper you sink into their web. Instead, let there be a pause, a breath, a return to your inner compass. Ask yourself, does this feel like mine, or does it belong to them? Simple question separates what is yours to carry from what must be returned. And when you see clearly, you no longer carry burdens that were meant to break you. You hand them back, silently, out anger, without resistance. Do not become what they accuse you of. Do not shrink in the shadow of their projections. Stand rooted in your own light. Know that the clarity you possess does not need to shout. It simply is. And in the presence of that clarity, their confusion has no place to anchor. Some will say reflection is passive, but it is not. It is a deep strength, a refusal to become entangled. The mirror holds truth. It shows the face as it is without distortion. In your stillness, the narcissist is forced to see themselves, something they desperately avoid. And that reflection, not your reaction, becomes the undoing of their illusion. So be the mirror, hold your center, return to your truth. What is not yours cannot stay, and what belongs to them must inevitably return home. There is a kind of hunger that never ends. It is not physical, it is emotional, psychological. The narcissist survives on attention, validation is their air, praise is their food, and even conflict, if it keeps them at the center, becomes a source of nourishment. They are not concerned whether your attention is warm or filled with fury. What matters is that your gaze remains fixed on them. To break their grip, you must understand this craving. Every time you explain yourself, argue, beg, or try to gain their approval, you are feeding them. Each word, each sigh, each emotional shift, these are offerings, and they will consume it all. But what happens when you stop offering? What happens when you step back? Not with anger, but with quiet intentionality. When the energy is withdrawn, the illusion starts to collapse. They depend on your involvement to sustain their mask. When you no longer react, when you no longer reward their provocations with your attention, strange thing occurs. The structure they built begins to crack. You remove the stage from beneath their performance, and now they are left alone in silence. This silence is not emptiness, presence without participation. It is knowing your worth so deeply that you no longer need to seek understanding from those who twist your words. You begin to choose when and how you give your energy, and more importantly, to whom. Withholding attention is not cruelty, it is discipline. It is the recognition that your time, your peace, your emotional energy are sacred. You do not throw them into the fire to prove your innocence or to repair what someone else has broken. Do not light yourself on fire to keep someone else warm, especially someone who stands untouched by the flame and asks for more. This withdrawal is powerful because it is not dramatic, it is not rage, not revenge. It is quiet, it is focused, it is a reclaiming of energy that once flowed freely into a void. You no longer fill their emptiness with your presence, no longer fuel their game with your emotions. And in doing so, you remind yourself that you were never obligated to feed someone who only takes. There may be attempts to pull you back in. Guilt, charm, sudden warmth followed by criticism. But now you see the pattern, you recognize the cycle, and with that awareness comes the strength to choose. You learn to say no, not out of anger, but out of clarity. In that clarity, the narcissist becomes powerless. Not because you fought them, but because you stopped playing. Not because you exposed them, but because you turned your light inward. And now they can no longer reach you. Not because you are far away, but because you are no longer giving them a place to stand. There is a moment often overlooked that holds immense power. It's the space between what is done to you and how you choose to respond. Most people move too quickly, words are spoken, and immediately reactions fly like arrows. But if you truly wish to master yourself and dissolve the influence of manipulation, you must learn to enter that space, the pause. For within the pause, you reclaim your authority. Narcissists thrive in speed, they create emotional chaos, and in that storm, they push you to react without thought. They want you off balance, caught in reflex. When you respond automatically, they control the tempo, and where there is no stillness, there is no clarity. But when you pause, even for a single breath, you interrupt their momentum. You step outside their rhythm and return to your own. The pause is not weakness, it is wisdom. It is the sign of one who no longer dances to every beat played by another. When you delay your response even by a few seconds, you allow yourself to see what is really being said. What is the intent behind the words? What emotion is rising in you? And is it worth giving power to? With practice, this space expands. At first, it may feel like only a moment, but over time, that moment becomes a sanctuary, a place where you can witness without being consumed. You learn to hold the storm in your awareness without letting it enter your heart. Imagine the narcissist lashing out, pushing your buttons, trying to provoke your anger or guilt. In the past, you may have responded with fire, defending, explaining, arguing. But now you pause, you breathe, feel the urge to react, but you do not act on it. You allow it to rise and pass, like a wave that hits the shore but finds nothing to erode. This is not suppression. It is mastery, choosing presence over impulse. It is deciding that your peace is not worth trading for their chaos. The more you pause, the more you notice the tone behind their words, the manipulation hidden in their compliments, the trap set beneath their kindness. You see through it because you are no longer rushing to feel. In this silence, your power returns. You are no longer the puppet pulled by strings of emotion. You are the observer, the one who chooses. The narcissist who once thrived on your predictable reactions now finds confusion. They cannot manipulate what they cannot move. And so the pause becomes your shield. It does not push back, it simply refuses to be pushed. It is calm, like the surface of a still lake that reflects everything and absorbs nothing. In that stillness, their power fades. Not because they stopped trying, but because you stopped being moved. In the presence of manipulation, truth becomes your anchor. The narcissist distorts reality. They twist words, revise history, and question your memory, not to understand, but to disorient you. They create fog where there was once clarity, confusion where there was once peace. This is not accidental, it is intentional. When you begin to doubt yourself, become easier to control. But when you are firmly rooted in your inner truth, that fog has no place to settle. To anchor in truth is to return to what is undeniable, your lived experiences, your values, your intentions. These are not up for debate, even when someone attempts to rewrite them. The narcissist may say, "That never happened," or "You're too sensitive," or "misunderstood." And if you are not steady inside yourself, these words begin to seep into your mind like water through cracks. But when you are anchored, do not seek external confirmation for your inner knowing. You trust what you saw, what you felt, what you heard. This trust in self is not arrogance. It is alignment. No longer hand your reality to someone else for validation. You no longer allow someone to define your emotions, your worth, or your past. The narcissist wants to be the narrator of your story, but when you reclaim the pen, their voice becomes irrelevant. Anchoring requires silence, not silence in the outer world, but silence inside, the kind that lets you hear your own voice beneath the noise. When you are calm, centered, and still, you can feel the difference between what is true and what is manipulation. And once you learn that feeling, you will never again be led astray by sweet lies or loud accusations. This path is not without challenge. There will be moments when their words sting, when you begin to question if you're wrong. Maybe they're right. In those moments, return to your breath, return to the sensation of being present in your own body. Ask yourself, does this feel like truth, or does it feel like pressure? Truth is steady, pressure is urgent, and what comes from force is rarely honest. To live anchored in your truth means you no longer chase approval, no longer explain your worth. You simply embody it. And in this embodiment, the narcissist's influence fades. Their tactics bounce off the surface of your certainty. Their confusion cannot touch your clarity. They cannot manipulate what is already whole. Your inner truth is your compass. Let others spin their stories. Let them cast their shadows. You walk forward guided by the light within. And that light, once awakened, cannot be dimmed by anyone, not even those who live in darkness. There is a subtle strength that comes not from conflict, but from elevation. When facing a narcissist, the common instinct is to fight, to expose, to confront. But confrontation only fuels the very dynamic they seek. It binds you to them in a cycle of resistance. Their energy thrives on attention, even in the form of opposition. But transformation takes you beyond the game entirely. It is not a battle of words. It is a shift in being. Transform is to rise not above them as a way to dominate, but beyond the need for validation or revenge. When you focus on your own growth, you naturally detach from the drama. You stop asking why they did what they did. You stop needing an apology that will never come. You begin to realize that their actions are a reflection of their state of being, not of your worth. Space of transformation, your energy changes. It no longer leaks toward trying to fix or change them. It is redirected inward, where healing begins. You start to cultivate inner peace, emotional clarity, mental discipline. These qualities cannot be manipulated. They create a quiet field of power that needs no defense. The narcissist may still try to provoke you. They may switch tactics, kindness, silence, rage, guilt. But your transformation is not based on them. It is not reaction, it is creation. You are no longer shaped by their actions, are shaped by your intention. And your intention is to become free. This freedom does not come from winning arguments or proving them wrong. It comes from choosing a different path, one that does not require their permission or participation. You begin to rise in ways they cannot follow, because the tools they use, manipulation, deceit, control, do not work where you are going. Transformation means